The past couple weeks of the Gospel of Luke, we've been reading the Gospel of Luke a lot this summer, and now coming into the fall. In the past couple weeks, we've been reading parables. If Jesus had a teaching toolkit, Storied Church has a lot of teachers, and I imagine these teachers have a lot of things in their toolkit, right? You know, you have ways that you teach, and I think for Jesus, the way he taught was one of the things that he used to teach were parables, were these short stories that were applicable to the people around him and relatable, listening to them, and that these stories could be interpreted in a myriad of ways, that you don't just read a parable and like you come up like that's what that parable is saying. The next week that parable was different and it was interpreted differently because the context and lived life, all those things have changed, and so you begin to see the story from a different angle. And we're asking ourselves all these questions when we read a story like this, like who are we, who is the character, or what is the point? And then the question of like, am I the rich man or am I Lazarus? Or why did I pick that character to relate to and not the other character? There's this sense of, I don't know what your faith background is, but in the faith background I was raised in was kind of like this A plus B equals C, like this parable equals this is exactly what this parable is saying. And I think Jesus intentionally told parables so that you couldn't do that. So you couldn't come back with a definitive, this is what this parable is about. There's a lot of things that I could pull out of this parable, but today I want to talk about specifically what it means to be Lazarus, to practice this sense of vulnerability of Lazarus had a deep need. He was hungry and he was sick, and he needed help, and he did whatever he needed to do to get that help. He revealed his needs. And so today I want us to kind of think about what does it mean to cultivate space in our lives to put words to what we're feeling or our needs. Because so often, I might be reading into this, so often we don't vocalize our needs to other people. What is it? So as I was saying that I want to approach this text differently, and actually when I first looked at it, I wanted to kind of explore like rich and poverty and those types of things, but I just kind of felt myself kind of leaning towards this question of being able to vocalize what we need and asking for help, and also being able to be the kind of people when people do express their needs to offer help. Lazarus, the name translates and means a God who helps, a God who knows exactly what others needs are. And Lazarus, like I said, has the need for food and he needs healing. There are no hiding behind what Lazarus needs, and in opposition to that, what he needs is for this rich man to help him. I'm constantly aware that there's this great distance between our society and the society that we read about in this story. Particularly in our society, we are all trained to be the rich person. This self-sufficient person, I don't need you, you don't need me, and we kind of raise up in this way, like we take care of ourselves. And I was kind of in some ways interested to kind of hear where our conversations led, because it's a challenging thing for us in this society to name, especially I'm making a grand assumption that most of us are middle class people, that that asking for what we need, probably for all of us, does not come easily. And yet, I find it interesting that we try to raise our children in this mentality that ask what you need, or ask for help when you need help. I know this person all too well because I'm not the kind of person, I feel like Kia's now like just turned on the record button, that this might come back to me, but I'm not the kind of person that asks for help or vocalizes well what I need. And I heard some of our conversations kind of gearing towards our place in the family system, like where, you know, any middle children in here, any middle, yeah, y'all got what you need. Yeah, your parents took care of you. You know, I felt like I'm making these grand assumptions. So if you're like, is he being serious? But like middle children, the myth is that they get everything that they need. The older kid has to, like, you're the older kid, right, Bradley? Yeah, I know. You have a lot of issues. I'm just kidding.
I'm always right.
Usually people don't sit on the front row, and so, like, it's like, y'all are, like, y'all are targets, in a way. But, like, the oldest kid, you know, it's just... You know, you're the grand experiment. Like, we don't know what we're doing, but we're going to figure some things out with you. And then the youngest kid, you're just like, well, they can find their way to the pantry. They can feed themselves. Clearly, we raised one, and that one's still alive. And so, you know, 3, 4, 5, just keep them coming. Like, yeah, they'll take care of themselves. I was the youngest child. And I kind of felt like I just kind of had to figure things out. My brother took 8 years to like get a bachelor's degree. It's like, come on, man. Me, it's like it took me 4 years, and I'm like, look at me. Well, it's because my parents just kind of like, he can figure it out, and I always managed to figure it out. And the bad thing about this is that it really builds this sense in me where it's hard for me to name what I need, because I've always grown up with this mentality of like, figure it out. And so when you get to a problem that's way too big, you don't ask for what you need. I've thought a lot about this past week about the Fred Rogers quote that he reflected when he was reflecting upon 9/11. They kind of called him out of retirement, saying, hey, we need you to come back and to say some words. And it's this utter reminder that as we talk about what we need, we are also recognizing that the world we live in often feels unsettled beneath our feet. We try to live in this reality that everything's going to work out, everything's fine, but then below that there's this vulnerability of like, things seem very brittle, and that our world can be a scary place. And this is where, when we talk about what we need or what we're feeling, when we are like, I got to figure it out, we kind of disavow like the reality of our world is very brittle. But he said these words in the midst of a really traumatic time. When I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping. To this day, especially in times of disaster, I remember my words, and I'm always comforted by realizing that there are still so many helpers, so many caring people in this world. I think where I want us to make some strides on this journey today, or to think about, is to be able to name or reflect what is it that we need, or what is it that we're feeling, and learning to vocalize it with people that we love and trust that are around us. Because this story, this parable that Jesus told, is to me a story about simply somebody that didn't help. Somebody that could have helped, somebody that had the means to help, but was so in a world, in their own world, that they did not see someone else's need. And then there's the other side of it. You know, when someone tells you your needs, you're just like, what in the world, how in the world could I help you with whatever you're dealing with, you know? You know, someone like pours out their emotions of like, you know, I'm just really depressed. I don't know if I can go on in this world. And you're like, I'm not a therapist. I'm trying not to curse right now. But I'm not a therapist. Like, I don't, you can go on, you know. And then when we hear and we're confronted by others' needs or like our struggle in the world, we're just like, what good could I do? And as I was thinking this past weekend, I do my best thinking when I'm running. In every time we end our service together, we give a blessing to take with you. I ask you to extend your hands like this to receive this blessing, because I think that way. I think when I hear the struggles of one another, when people find that space to name their needs, I'm just like, what good am I going to do for somebody? How can I help somebody like meager me that's wearing a shirt that says do good? And then I was reminded of these, thanks Bradley. I'm glad that somebody.
I'm only laughing because the microphone makes it look like no good.
No good?
No, I see. Oh, good. It feels more sarcastic, actually. Oh, good.
There you go. All right. I'm the disruptor. I'm the guy who disrupts, by the way.
Thank you. I'm just trying not to cry right now. We'll cut this out of the YouTube version. But one of the things that we say every time we leave this place is may God bless you with enough foolishness to believe that you can make a difference in this world so that you can do what others claim cannot be done. And as I'm running, I'm thinking that, like, you know, you say that to others every Sunday. What does it mean to believe that for your own life? It is a foolish thought, I guess, in a way, to believe that we could carry other people's needs. But we're claiming the confidence to do just that. To claim what other people say that can't be done. And sometimes these ways are I think sometimes we think in grandiose terms. Like, simple fact is, Lazarus didn't need somebody to construct a nonprofit that feeds people. He just needed a bed, some food to get well, and to eat. Simple. There are just simple ways that we can come alongside each other. A few years ago, I was a pastor at 2 churches. Imagine that. And one of the things that one of these churches in particular always wanted me to do, go visit people, go visit elderly people. And I really enjoyed that, but it was never enough. And there would be like, name all the people you're visiting, how long you're visiting for, whatnot. And so it always became this weird, like, I liked doing it, but it kind of seemed obligatory. But there was one family that I visited with a lot, and I kind of saw this journey of this elderly man go from, you know, being able to go out to his garden and to till it and to plant stuff, and into dementia began to set in, and he became just confined to his chair and didn't say anything. His name was Huel. And so the pastor comes in, you know, we spend some time together, and then usually as we leave, you say a prayer, and then we go. But this one time I was visiting with him, you know, and I'm like, what good can I do for this person who has dementia? I'm not a doctor, I'm a pastor, and yeah, just trying, like, all I can do is pray But as I was leaving, I usually like, is there anything else I can do? Sometimes if I like see the floor's dirty or something, as being like, can I vacuum your floor? And it's like, no. And it's like, too, like, they don't want the pastor to be vacuuming their floor. But I noticed that he had a beard. Like, this was a man that, like, his value was to get up in the morning and shave his face. Like, he was not a bearded man. And he had a beard. And so, anything else you need? No, no, no. And I was like, can I shave him? Like, I've never shaved another man in my life, nor have I ever offered that service to anybody. You have? You are in the better human being section. And she was like, no, absolutely not. And I'm like, I know what it feels like to have, like, stubble and it itches. Like, I know that he's not feeling good with hair on his face. And so she finally obliged and let me, she got shaving cream and shaved him in his chair. And I think he was happy. He was happy. He oftentimes, he didn't really know who I was. He thought I was the postman. I'm like, we kind of do similar things. We bring messages. I wrote this in a blog I wrote a few years ago as I reflected, and I said, I don't want to get too theological, but there are times that I don't feel like a pastor. But in that moment when I was giving this man a fresh shave, I felt like I was his pastor. I felt like I was doing exactly what Jesus called me to do. I think sometimes we think of these audacious things that we need to do for people, but sometimes we can just support and love one another in simple ways. We get so lost, and many of us are raised in this culture of like what Christianity is. How much do I pray? How much do I read Scripture? How religious am I? And we forget that the central mission that Jesus has sent us out to do is just to care well for one another, to help one another, to be the kind of community that can carry one another's needs. So I truly believe there is a Lazarus in our world. Maybe it's a person in this room. Maybe somebody expressed a need to you and you heard it this morning. If there is someone in our sphere, whether we're a teacher or whether we're in the hospital working, that is someone that is longing for help, and we're so often thinking that we need to solve all their needs, but maybe we just need to simply offer to them what we have and what we can. Or maybe you feel like Lazarus in this room, and that's okay. Some of us in here have a profound block on being able to ask for help. Can I just give us permission today that it's okay to ask for help? To express that you need something? Maybe you're damaged or you're hurt, or you're just like Lazarus, you're just longing for someone to see you, or you're carrying questions, or you're doubting, disillusioned. And this story reveals to us that God sees us. And not only does God see us, but we see one another. And the challenge for us is to learn to name what we need and to invite others to come alongside our journey. This week I've been carrying Psalm 46, verse 1. I think it's 1 through 3. God is our refuge and strength and ever-present help in trouble. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy place where the highest dwells. God is within her. She will not fall. God will help her at break of day. A prayer that I want us to carry as we leave this place is Wesley's covenant prayer. I don't know if I put it on the slide. Did I put it on the slide? No? Okay, so it'll just be me praying it. But I'll post it to Facebook. But it's this beautiful prayer of how we might commit ourselves yet again. One of the things that Gaddy said last week in his sermon is that each day is an opportunity to believe in Jesus again. And today is a day to believe yet again that we might be helpers to one another, and also to believe that someone else might help us. And I've always loved this, called the Wesleyan Covenant Prayer, which is a prayer that is about making a covenant before God each and every day. And I'm going to close by praying this prayer and invite you to pray with me. God, we are no longer our own but yours. Put us to what you will, place us with whom you will. Put us to doing, put us to suffering. Let us be put to work for you or set aside for you, praise for you or criticize for you. Let us be full, let us be empty. Let us have all things, let us have nothing. I freely and fully surrender all things to your glory and service. And now, O wonderful and holy God, Creator, Redeemer, Sustainer, you are mine and we are yours. So be it. And the covenant which we have made on earth, let it also be ratified in heaven. Amen.